So maybe I'll start with Sadiq. Why don't you introduce yourself and what you're doing?
So I'm founder of Lysto. We primarily are a social hub for gamers, enabling gamers to build and construct their profiles, gaming credentials essentially, while playing the games they love. Initially, we started with Web3 games, and now we have Web2 games and Web3 games as well. And before that, I was part of the founding team of Quicksilver, which is today the largest prepaid platform in Asia. And we were sold to Pine Labs, and yeah, Accel was one of our investors at that time. So that's a quick brief about us.
Hi, this is Manish here. We are trying to really see if we can make gamers the front and right and center of this gaming universe, give them fame which they deserve, not at just national level, but at their own society, they're in colleges. We are trying to ensure that their parents love them, they really are proud of them, they can say that, hey, listen, my gamer son, my gamer daughter is so good. And they do not really kind of keep looking at whether he's a doctor or an engineer or a private equity investor.
That's pretty ambitious. So I'm Pratik. I'm part of the early stage team at Accel. We were fortunate to invest with IndiGG as well. And I've spent last couple of years in the crypto neighborhood. And of all the time I spent, I thought blockchain gaming in particular was something where there is like a line of sight of like enduring application. So excited to be with you guys. Is there somebody who can help us collect some questions from the audience, from the organizers?
Guys, this is not a request. We are not going to start the panel if you don't give us questions. I think it's a very simple thing.
Anything's fine.
Anything is fine. You can
ask Manish's hometown. We can start with that.
But we are literally not going to start. And we are बहुत बेशरम हैं हम.
You're in this room. I'm hoping you wanted to hear something. You want questions about something. Okay, great. We have the early mover. Thank you. Is there a mic? Actually, one mic we can just give them. Yeah. Perfect.
Thanks, Manish. So Web2 games are extremely evolved, right? In the sense that they are very fun to play and the interface is amazing. It's like cutting edge. It comes to Web3 games, you always have this complaint that they are very rudimentary looking, almost like the games we used to play about 15, 20 years ago in Web2 or Web 1 by that logic. So where do you see that moving in the next couple of years? Is there anything happening at the frontier of Web3 gaming UI improvement?
That's a good question. Manish, maybe you can take that.
So I think 3 points here. One, we believe that there is nothing called Web2 gaming or Web3 gaming. That's the misnomer. Because a gamer loves to play games for fun, for community. And game developer makes gun because they're passionate about the community having fun. So I think this whole nonsense of Web2, Web3 is a waste of time for everyone. The second point is, when you look at the evolution of mobile-based freemium gaming, that from 2010-9 onwards, it also had its own share of quality of games, gameplay, game economy, meta loop, improving over last 13, 14 years. And I think that is what you will see happening here also. The reason being, the last 2, 3, 4 years, a lot of people who came into building games using blockchain or using tokens, they were tourists or they were only catering to speculators who were here for quick money. And they had no real interest in making games. Their real interest was making money from tokens. So they were playing a different game, and which is a legit game, but that's not a game which we gaming guys know. And the third thing is, to your question on how do we expect this change, some of the good quality games really take a couple of years to really come along. And amount of investment and good teams which have proven track record of building uh, proven retention, large scale games have come into this ecosystem and who are figuring out how to marry the principles of blockchain and yet keep the game fun and people keep coming back. I think all of that is happening, and I'm very bullish about 24 that very, very good teams, good outputs will happen. So 24, I hope your question around games which can deliver fun at scale, yet the asset ownership related economy could come true. The economy part, I think, would take more time.
Maybe Manish, as a follow-up, like, are there particular games that give you excitement right now that you've seen? Because you see some games in the early stage of development also. Are there maybe 2, 3 names you can take, and what about those games gives you promise and hope that, like, something's around the corner?
So the one genre which is naturally attuned to asset ownership and unlocking that value is trading card games, right? Which is like Hearthstone. I don't know how many of you are familiar, but there is a very, very popular, great franchise which has been existing for many, many, many years, decades. And the trading card game is essentially where you have a deck of cards which have certain powers, and you are kind of playing. Sadiq is playing with Pratik. Both of you have decks, and then you figure it out based on the opponent's cards who wins. Now, the gameplay could be an animated fight. Gameplay could be something. Now, the ownership of cards and then the boosting of cards really creates a core loop for secondary marketplaces. And I think that genre is happening. And one of the game which I am personally very excited is Parallel, which is there, which is very deep game, which is not just made for speculators, but it has a very strong balance of progression and then speculation. Similarly, if you look at from an India perspective, we are thankfully not a gun country in real life, but in virtual life, we like BGMI, we like Free Fire, and we like those first-person shooter or third-person shooter games. And some of the good quality first-person, second-person shooting games are under development. I have seen them in GDC this year, earlier, February, March. Next GDC, I'm very, very keen to see those games. Some of the games, I will not confess I'm not the expert on controls, but the controls of some of the shooting games are like PUBG. So I'm very hopeful about the things which are going to come in.
I think you want to add in?
Yeah. So, I mean, just to add to the card games, right? So there's a slight difference in the way that at least we had seen these games earlier. So there used to be baseball cards in US. It's actually a pretty big phenomena, which would age well in terms of both pricing, in terms of both rarity, and stuff like that. Actually, the gaming card craze, especially on the NFT bit, started around that because primarily it is native in that sense, right? Because there is a strong provenance, you can figure out how rare it is, and that was a good replacement for the physical card business as such. So the physical card business, I mean, even in India, we used to have trump cards of World Wrestling Entertainment. We would exchange all of that. Of course, I mean, we wouldn't pay as much, or probably not pay at all. But typically in developed markets, especially US and Europe, there was a huge market which became a natural native application for the blockchain-led games itself. And that's when, quite a few of those NFT Top Shots and stuff started coming in. But that's, again, Europe, US. India, I'm not yet sure if the card games, because there are no physical card existing market as such. So that's something that I feel is native, and I'm very bullish about those examples.
I think another genre which is slightly controversial is the whole real money gaming. Now, whether it's sports betting, whether it's casino, whether it's, let's say, fantasy, whatever it is, your ability to pool global liquidity and have cross-border liquidity pools available from crypto to crypto, I think it's a fantastic use case. I said there is a caveat of statutory, gray, and all that stuff. But I think Rollbit is a great example of making shitloads of money. They're almost generating 30 mil a day or 30 mil a month, and I may be wrong on day or month, but that's the kind of turnover they're generating. So the use case of crypto solving for on-ramp, off-ramp, fiat issues, payment issues, and pulling together global liquidity, I think it's happening. Unfortunately, in India, in the mainstream business, you can't participate.
Understood. I hope that's helpful answer to your question.
And Pratik, one just to add also, right? So there are fully on-chain. There's a lot of positivity around fully on-chain games, not the Axis of the world. Like if you would open an Axis smart contract, you would see a link to a central server, right? But there is a lot of positivity around fully on-chain games. I mean, if you look at ZF EVM as such, which enables typically behaviors which would not be possible from a centralized game, whether like for example, there are certain examples of poker being built on top of it, and I was speaking to someone today. So those are the ones, again, I would say the native ones. The problem with that today is those are very developer focused, and like what he mentioned, which are not driven by UI, and that's probably something, while it is niche today, but assumption is that at some time that would probably be one category of games which are fully on-chain games.
Yeah, that's what I was also hoping to see, but haven't really come across something that resonates.
Intezar karo, hoga.
Awesome. Next question. All right.
Yeah, so I have a question, like you are telling about the market and all works, but in the case of India, what is the scope for developers? Like we see a lot of engineers passing out, but we don't have people who actually like build games, and like there's like a particular course, like a engineering course, like 4-year degree or something like that. So since crypto has a tax percentage, and even online gaming, which has any kind of money incentive, has a 30% tax, how is it a viable option, and why would developers actually will be interested in starting in this field? And if yes, what would be your suggested tech stack to go forward with it?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. What's the opportunity for the Indian developer to start into this industry? Why should they choose it? What's the opportunity?
So I'll tell you a story. 2010, some of us came together to find India Game Developer Conference. In Pune, we had 10 developers attending it, and NASSCOM was kind enough to give us an umbrella. Fast forward 2023, in Hyderabad, we have IGDC, where 4,000 developers pay, and then they attend that conference, and that conference has become a behemoth from multiple brands doing hands-on labs, design courses, games. So that's the development in terms of India game developers. This is the fastest growing market. And if you look at Unreal, Unity, their subscription and all that stuff. The skilling part of game developers, you mentioned about games and game courses. I think a lot of colleges have started. I am personally in touch with 13 universities which want a full-fledged gaming course to be launched, because gaming is the cross-functional course. And they want, whether it's a 1 year for a comp science guys as an elective, or it is a full 4-year degree. I think it's a really matter of 2-3 years, we'll have a lot more universities. The challenge is not the course design, challenge is the trainer, like always. That who is going to teach the nuances of game design. Your part of engineering, animation, graphics can still be done. So I think that's the challenge from skilling. As far as opportunity is concerned, it's very simple. Today, there are umpteen examples of successful studios making in India for globe. And there, the scale has happened, the shareholder value creation has happened, and obviously the teams and founders have also found their wealth generation happening. So you can really look at that. There is an opportunity, massive opportunities make in India for India to kind of bring forth your own consumer insights or stories to the users. So I think this is the best golden period for developers to really build in India for globe or in India for India. And every genre is available, there's a white space. My only piece of advice is uh, come into gaming from a very simple thing that your 10th iteration would be successful if you are very lucky. Your first 9 iterations will not be useful. And that is where it differentiates from any other thing that you need that longevity, perseverance to survive in this.
And surprisingly, by the way, NID itself, I didn't know this, National Institute of Design has a course on game design. I mean, it's a full-fledged MS course on game design, which was even surprising for me. So I'm assuming a lot of universities would definitely be looking at that as such.
That's great. Thank you for the question. Next, I think we have somebody on this side of the audience. See, it's not that hard to come up with good questions.
So,
Basically, you don't want to do your job.
all right, so what capabilities of Web3 do you think games can incorporate to give new useful experiences to users? And what are the most promising ones that you...
It seems like this question is planted by Manish.
Can you repeat the question? Can you repeat the question, please?
I was asking which capabilities of Web3 do you think are really well suited to be brought into games to change or enhance the gaming experience, which is not possible in Web2?
Yeah. So let's break down into 2-3 things, right? See, one is the core mechanics itself, that's what I was telling. There are a few set of technologies, I mean, which is like, for example, I mean, very early, but FHEVM, if you look at, these are virtual machines which you can actually build on top of that, which enable certain games which are centrally impossible to build as such. And it gives you that kind of composability on the chain itself. So, so that's one part, but there you're saying it's the core mechanics itself is on the chain. So that's one probability. And of course, there are quite a few developers building on top of that. Then there is the assets itself, right? The provenance of the asset, the rarity of the asset, which is publicly available. A lot of Web3 games, the basis of their games itself is that you can actually see if there is a particular asset, a particular in-game asset, which technically, because it's an open smart contract, you can technically validate whether it is, I mean, what is being said is actually true or not. But that also depends, again, I mean, I will say that with a caveat that also depends on, I mean, do you have low trust on central game developers as such? But yeah, that's debatable. So those are the two places. The third itself is, which is again a little controversial in the earlier set of Web3 games itself, is every game has an economy in itself as such, right? So these economies are typically controlled by the game developer. But if there is means and ways, and if someone cracks that this economy can be sustainable in some sense, like, I mean, very similar to a lot of L1s and L2s have cracked that, right? So that's the third reason why people would build using Web3 technologies as such. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just to build on that very simply, the aspect of your economic value sharing, where you are saying that, hey, listen, whatever, you are the owner of this game. that ownership really creates huge amount of uh, desire in gamers from day zero to start batting for this project, getting more of their friends into this project, and coming back to this project more often. Now, what it means in business terms, your cost of consumer acquisition is becomes zero. In typical last 15 years, we have seen first make the game, spend the money, get your users engagement, then see retention, then go to VC to get some money. Hopefully they'll give you money, then put it in the hundi of Facebook, Google, and then you keep going in this grind, right? Now that grind can be broken. If you have people who are your co-founders, literally, they will put their time, skill, passion, reference, everything into it. So that's one thing which is fundamental to blockchain. If you are harnessed, it's a philosophy. Technology is there to enable it. But if you are not wedded to this philosophy, I think you are a tourist.
I think like I'll give you some example that personally really helped me get excited about this space. So let's talk about like the physical environment like we are in. Like I'll take two examples. So one, let's take an example of used cars, right? And then let's take an example of online apparel shopping. So say for example, like today, I don't know how we know, but like there are 100 cars sold in India. Roughly 25 are used cars, 75 are new cars. In the US, there'll be like majority, like 60% maybe used and 40% new, right? So let's assume 25 and 75, right? So if the government launches a rule that whatever car you buy, you can no longer resell it. You have to use it all the way till it becomes scrap, right? So now let's try to imagine what does it do to the number of car sales. So first of all the people who were buying the 25% cars, the used cars, they can no longer afford a new car, so they are out. So then you have already like a 30% reduction in volume. And then all the people who are buying new cars, they always do this math, that what's the resale value, right? And they try to speculate, okay, if I'm buying a new car for 100, I can sell it for 50. So my cost of ownership is 50. And so anybody who can afford 50 can buy it, not necessarily 100. So let's assume that's another 25 people. So now you see that if the government launches this rule that once you buy the car, you cannot sell it to anybody, then the total number of car sales reduces by half, right, instantly. Similarly, if you take another example, let's take an example of Myntra. When Myntra gives free returns, right? If you don't like the apparel, you can return it. And we are investors, so we know all these apparel companies have around 30% return. And again, that gives the assurance to the buyer that if I don't like something, I try it on, I can return it. That increases the confidence to transact. So if Myntra was to take this away, then my sense is Myntra's sales will also reduce by like a serious amount. So in some way, these are and these restrictions that I talk about might sound like a little bit bizarre, like this can never happen, like this is so wrong, and people might revolt against these. But these are the kind of restrictions that already exist in gaming. Like if you buy any digital good, you cannot exchange it, you can't return it, you can't sell it to anybody. So despite all of those restrictions on like free markets, like gaming has grown to be 200 billion plus, right? 150 billion is in-app purchases. So my sense is like if you can allow free markets in digital goods, then this number should easily become 3-4x, just because the number of people who ever transact can go from like a measly whatever 2-3% to maybe like 10%. So because they will know that there is residual value, there is comfort that if I don't enjoy a particular digital good, I can return it or exchange it. So I feel like this, the technology, blockchain and crypto, this allows for these free markets. And so it should multiply the gaming economy.
Last question, guys. Yeah.
Somebody at the back. Oh, I didn't realize. I thought it was.
I think we covered a lot about Web3 gaming, right? I would take a different tangent here on the VR gaming perspective, like especially with the VR adaptation, it's kind of slow, right? So, like, how do you see VR gaming industry in the next few years or so? Like, do you think India is a good market which will adapt the VR gaming, especially as West is doing it, in the North American region? So, I just wanted to ask on that.
So your question is like, what is our view on VR gaming? Is it going to inflect at any point soon or something?
So, I mean, it's just tech, right? I mean, you are rendering a UI interfaces in some way. You are going to render in better ways, right? I mean, that's all it is, right? I mean, in some sense. So obviously, the games which would work well in that kind of rendering of an interface obviously would work well. So the point here is there is already efforts. I mean, it's just a next layer of technology, if I were to say that. And obviously, it's you can't. I mean, these again, like what Manish said also. These are not Web3 games or Web2 games or VR games. We can't divide actually games. I mean, at least internally in the industry, we don't divide games based on technology as such. We categorize it differently, right? On the gameplay, that's how we categorize. So it actually doesn't matter. It's all set of games will have some growth on top of. These technologies will impact in ways that are helpful for some games, not helpful as much for other games, and might also end up creating a new category of games as such. Which is yet to be seen in that sense, because the adoptions are low as of now. I don't know if that answers. Yeah.
I think, just to pick what he's saying, the access to look at is immersive experience. You watch movies, it's passive. When you play games, it's interactive. Now, think of it, you are the soldier inside the game, wielding a gun, having a melee, going for a brawler, you are the Rajputana king, you are fighting. Now, who doesn't like that? We will all love to be part of a very immersive game experience. And the more immersive competitive gameplay it is, will further increase your propensity to pay, right? So I don't have any doubt in my mind that the technology evolution will make this happen much, much faster. Now, you combine this immersive experience with the digital avatars, and you have a perfect combo of an amazing interaction, and I wish it happens sooner than later, because I don't want to be too old to not experience it. But really, this has been a childhood dream to really have this kind of thing manifested. And that's what is going to really happen. The friction, in my opinion, is the variables. And how does that form factor become much easier, less wieldy, more photogenic? We are all social age of photographs. You don't want to look like aliens with those contraptions. So how can you look very handsome like Pratik and yet be in that immersive experience is what you need to figure out.
Cool. I think we are on time. I think there's somebody had a question we didn't cover, right? You want to still take that? Okay, we can do that last one, please. At the back.
Hello. First of all, thanks for all the information that you have shared today, guys. I think most of us here, including me, believe that NFTs and blockchain are a really good fit for gaming. But to play the devil's advocate here, at the risk of antagonizing everybody, it hasn't happened yet. That's the elephant in the room. The tech was there, and as Manish has mentioned earlier, it's because the creators were not creating the real games. They are not here for the gaming purpose. That's on the creator side. But on the gamer side, do you see any trends? Because I tried to do this myself in my own project. We have achieved limited success. But the more I talk to the gamers or try to understand them, it seems that there is no real interest from the gamer side about the things that Sadiq has mentioned, like provenance, ownership. But am I wrong in assuming that the gamers are not as interested, the demand is not there, which is why creators are not coming with the real games? What are the trends that you see?
Are you pitching a lot to investors these days? You said
Not yet, but
devil's
maybe
advocate
very
is the
soon.
job of an investor, yeah. The job of the founder is to be irrational optimist and keep believing in what you're doing and keep pivoting. That's Pratik's job to be devil's advocate. So on a serious note, I think a lot of unknowns. Very honest answer. On the first principle basis, I think we discussed the manifestation of those first principles will happen, not happen, God knows, really. The only thing which keeps me excited is tons of smart people coming into the space, trying to figure out very, very sharp problem statements and creating solutions at scale. I think as long as that's happening, we're all gonna make it. That's what my belief.
And to your question about evidence of demand, there is actually evidence of demand of provenance, asset ownership, and all of that, right? You see, you must have heard of people trading PUBG accounts, people trying to mine on the gold in Warcraft, right? So that's all the evidence of people actually wanting to own the assets and wanting to trade them and harvest the residual value. So it's not like a new desire. Somebody has to kind of orchestrate all of this together, and hopefully we have something, someone build like a role model at some point. But I think it's a matter of time.
Yeah, and even, I mean, the regular games, right? The trading of in-game items does happen. And the only thing is, I mean, where I agree with you is the provenance is there, but is the trust on centralized games low enough for it to be on the chain? Is the question that needs to be answered. I mean, one of the cases. That, like everyone says, that's a matter of time. We may be right or wrong, but that's where, I mean, we'll have to wait and watch.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.